Good morning! Have you ever faced a complete disaster when building maps in Minecraft? I've seen plenty of videos now of people building these awesome map rooms. And I just got back from holiday and I thought, let me give this a go. Turns out I was in for a world of pain. What I thought was going to be a relaxing way to get back into Minecraft after taking some time off actually turned out to be the worst idea I've ever had. Actually, to be fair, no, I've made a lot of bad decisions. The idea of a map room was pretty good. It was going to let me show off my Minecraft world. But there were so many things I didn't consider, and it took way longer than I thought. Sure, it's only some paper and some item frames. Then what scale would I need to build the map at? And if I do pick a scale, how big is the total map gonna be? I mean, I do have to put a whole room around this thing. I tried out a few different scales and found one I was pretty happy with. You could still see some of the larger buildings, and you could get a little bit of a sense of the detail in the city. I then went ahead and carried this map scale across my continent. And that's where the trouble started. I didn't realise how big this map was going to need to be. And with each batch of maps I produced, it was getting harder and harder to know what I had and hadn't tracked. Having an elytra certainly made it easier to get to new areas and start recording them. But it still took ages, and having to land to place down my cartography table was pretty difficult. It wasn't difficult, it just took ages. But with about half of my map complete, what I thought would be a relaxing evening activity had turned into a 6-hour ordeal.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Honestly, the rain hitting me at this point was a perfect example of pathetic fallacy. But with a few more maps, my map of the continent was almost complete. Or so I thought. Turns out my continent is about 3 or 4 times this size. And one of the worst things is, even if I complete this map, I'm going to have to take out chunks of it to update it every time me or one of my friends does a build. Also, this wandering trader just got in the way, so he started catching hands, so did his pets. Wasn't fun. But I had way too much tenacity to stop after all of this effort. And so I got to work on an extra section of the map that juts out from the west of the map. I thought I'll just add on the missing chunks and then I'll do a quick extra layer of maps around the outside. And that pushed me to my breaking point. At this point I just opened up Seed Atlas and I figured that just placing blocks where the maps should have been would be enough. I could write in some fancy story reason why the maps weren't very good in those areas. This is a continent at war, after all. But with the effort put aside, I was pretty happy with this map. You can see my city of Thuldrum here, and the city of Ladigan next to it. And then we can fly over here and see my first city, Mornington. The scale of these maps shows off the biggest of buildings on its surface. Like, look at my coastal city, Velkaport here. You can see all the ships in the dock. But the scale is also large enough that you can get a sense of just how big this continent is. It's got some pretty crazy rivers too. I also realised halfway through that it looks terrible if you don't have glowstone underneath it. I tried my best with a series of lamps, but I really should have put in glowstone from the start. I really didn't want to pick it up just yet, as I'd already have to pick it up to move it to the map room. and so I hoped the lanterns would do the trick. They just left a weird square in the middle. As always, each episode of MorningCraft contributes to a larger story. So, let's go to a quick story segment.
Having just acquired the Eastern Fleet, Mayor Jansen of Ladigan commissioned a map from the dog. Once completed, he gathered a number of people to plan a strategy. The Earl stood by Thaldrim, the Mayor stood by Ladigan, and all the people gathered around this map. The Elafian Empire possessed the strongest ship on the sea, the Valkyria Sovereign. This ship would allow the Elafian Empire to strike anywhere on the continent with impunity. If the Dawn Protectorate was to survive against the Empire, they would have to destroy the Sovereign, which was lurking in the Western Seas. While the people spoke of strategy, Harold Fielding stared into the section of the map representing the Heap, which was once the home of most settlers in Thaldrim. Eventually, the people agreed that the Eastern Fleet should be taken across the North Sea in its entirety to ambush and destroy the Valkyria Sovereign. The ships would have to be led past the mountain kingdom of Eldros, and then they could strike.
So with the morning story told for today, it was time to get on to building the map room. I found this nice patch of land, and I got to work on building it. I built this pretty cool platform around the outside, and I wanted to go for a cool map garden in a courtyard, like this one from Game of Thrones. I of course had to bring all my blocks that build up the map. And then most importantly, the map itself. And after building a very basic courtyard, you can get quite the idea of what I'm going for here. I also invited my friend North to come and take a look. Not bad at all for a project that took way longer than it should have. We can now appreciate the cities on the server from above. And overall, I think the project was a resounding success. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've had a really good morning. Yeah, it's good to be back to making Minecraft stuff after making travel videos. But I'm glad to be back. Probably won't be playing with maps for a little while. Either way, here's the morning quote. Hope you have a really good day, and I'll see you next time on MorningCraft.